So we got you guys with a really interesting topic involving minor league baseball. I know we don't really talk about like minor league affiliates and all that, but we're talking about a whole league, and the reason why we're doing that is because the MLB is having the Atlantic League experiment with moving the pitcher's mound back a foot and experimenting a double hook designated hitter. I'll explain what that is in a second. So I want to get to this pitcher's mound situation. Now, in case if you guys don't play baseball, or if you guys know the dimensions and you don't really know the dimensions of a pitcher's mound, the pitcher's mound is exactly 60.5 feet away from home plate and every other base. Because when you think about it, the baseball diamond is basically a square flipped over. Each base is 90 feet apart, and then the pitcher's mound is right in the middle, and it's 60.5 feet away from all the other bases. So, and what they're gonna do is effective August 3rd, which is second half of the minor league season, they're gonna move the mound back a foot. Now I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I'll get to my point in a few minutes. And Theo Epstein actually had a quote in regard to this. He says, and I quote, "We are grateful that the Atlantic League, which has been at the forefront of successful rule experiments in the past, has agreed to test a 12-inch increase in the distance between the pitching rubber and home plate during the second half of the season. We expect to learn a great deal about the impacts of such change and whether an adjustments to the critical field dimension is worth potential future consideration at other levels of professional baseball." Now, the reason why they're doing this is to decrease strikeout rates, which has gone up 33% since 2007, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But I'll get to that in a second. I'm a little bit skeptical of this, Mario. Now going back to the double hook designated hitter thing. Basically, what that means is as soon as the starting pitcher gets taken out, the designated hitter's gone, which is very, very confusing. And the source of this was Jesse Rogers, who was an ESPN staff writer. So since I'm a pitcher, Mario, let me start up with this. I hate this. I really do, and here's why. You may think that a foot isn't going to make a difference, but believe me, Mario, when I tell you this is going to make a difference, it will make a difference. A lot of people say in basketball, a couple of inches, like, all right, you got KD who's like 6'10", almost 7 feet, and you got LeBron who's 6'8". A lot of people say that's a big difference, and it is. Same thing here. Moving the pitcher's mound back and a foot back is a big, big deal, Mario, because it just screws up the entire dimensions. Now it's no longer 60.5 feet from home or from the pitcher's mound to home plate and from the pitcher's mound to first, second, and third base. Now, a lot of people that play baseball, and especially me, we all know that like when we release the ball, right? I wish I could show you guys, but my knee still kind of hurts, so I can't really demonstrate the pitching rotation or the movement or whatever. But when we throw, right, our back foot goes on the rubber, and then like our front foot, it comes out a good amount of space actually. Sometimes if you're tall enough, it can come out to at least 6 feet. You know what I mean? And then our arm comes out a couple of feet off the rubber. So in reality, we're not really throwing 60 feet. We're throwing somewhere between like 55 and 60 feet, more like that, if you want to be realistic about it. Or if you're a little bit taller, like 53, 60 feet, somewhere around there. You know what I mean? But moving it back a foot is such a big difference because not only are you killing the charm of the strikeout rate, because let's be honest, a lot of people think the balls in MLB are juiced. Personally, I'm a believer in that, but that's a whole other argument for another time. A lot of people think the balls are juiced. You know what I mean? Just moving back the mounds. You know how much strength it takes out of a pitcher just to throw one fastball. That takes a lot of strength. I know it doesn't look it, but it does. Believe me, throwing 95 miles an hour is no easy task. It's really not. And to do it from another foot back, I mean, come on now. We already got 60 feet to work with. I don't need another foot put on me. I know it sounds like I'm complaining at this point, but come on. I mean, when you really think about it, you're not only putting more stress on the pitcher because now he has to put more strength to throw in the ball another foot, but you're screwing up the dimensions of the diamond too. Now, it's not going to change the dimensions of the path from home plate to first and third and such so on and so forth. But it's gonna change the dimension from home plate to from the pitcher's mound to home plate, and then from the pitcher's mound to first, and the pitcher's mound to third, and the pitcher's mound to second. That's what's gonna mess it up. And I honestly think this isn't a good idea. Personally, that's why they're testing it to see if the pitchers will actually adjust to see if it'll work. That's why it's just a test. And I'm glad it's not something that they're actually going to test moving forward because if they just implemented it, you know what I mean? If they just implemented it like they did with the instant runner on second base, which is another thing that I truly hate, then that would just be a recipe for disaster. So I'm glad that they're testing it. I just don't like the idea. Now, let me get to the double hook DHing. This is another thing I don't like because what if the starting pitcher doesn't even last an inning? You just lost your designated hitter in less than one inning. I personally don't like that either. I don't know what's going on with that. Again, they're testing it, so I'm glad it's not something permanent as of right now. But I don't know, Mario. As a pitcher, I don't like this. I really don't. I know a lot of you guys probably out there is like, oh, it's just a foot, it's not a big deal. Yeah, it is. Personally, it is. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of strength to throw a fastball, and even any pitch in general. I mean, even though the sliders and the off-speed pitches and the changeups, they don't really look like they're a tussle to throw, but believe me, they are. They really really are. Especially when you're playing in other places where the climate is different, the environment's different, or if you play under a dome, if you're lucky enough, that's a different story. It really messes with you. You know what I mean? So. With that being said, that's really my thoughts on that. Personally, I'm glad they're testing it, and I'm glad it's not a permanent thing as of right now. And if there is an update on it, whether they actually go through with this or not, we will talk about it. But with that being said, I'll pass on to you now, Mario, and I'll see what you think about this.
Yeah, well, first I'll start off with the with what you said about the mound. I completely disagree with you. I like this, I do, and I'll tell you why. I understand that you're a pitcher. I understand like your concerns with it, but here's why I like it so much. Okay, when we're talking about it's different between like college football, college basketball, where you're playing and you might not get and you're like you're playing college basketball or football, but you might not like want to play it. You know what I'm saying? Baseball, it's a different story. Here's why I like it so much. When you're in the minor leagues, right? You're playing for um I'm trying to think like you're playing for all these minor league baseball teams, right? You made it. Like you got drafted. What I like about this so much is it actually prepares the pitchers for when they get to the MLB because everything you just complained about, they could be complaining about that right now, but when you get to the MLB, you're gonna have to deal with it. You know, they're not going to move it a foot forward for you. You're going to have to deal with it when you get to the MLB. This is what I like about it so much is that they're going to get experience to it so much to the point when they get to the MLB, they don't have to adjust to another foot. They can adjust to it early. So I say it's better to adjust to something early than to adjust to it when it happens. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, the white tape around like the tip or whatever. There's always something. I'm trying to think about the sports. I'm not sure what they do with hockey or everything like that, but I like this. I like this a lot because it prepares these pitchers for when they actually get to the league. Because some of them that, like you said, a foot, it might not seem a lot, but it is, and I completely agree with you. A lot of them can't adjust to it when they actually get to the MLB. The foot really messes with them, and they are not able to pitch the way that they did in the minors because that foot means a lot. If you get that foot out of the way in the minor leagues and you separate who are the who are the good pitchers to the ones who might not be able to make it to the MLB, I think that's really going to make a difference, and I really think that's going to help them. I think that is going to help their game early opposed to later. I think if they deal with it earlier opposed to when they get to the MLB, I think it's a huge help for them. Going to your part about the deep hook, double hook, double header or deep hook double header, whatever it's called. Yeah, that doesn't seem right with me. You made a good point. If the starting pitcher only lasts like 2 or 3 innings, there's no designated hitter. You're kind of screwed with with the switch hitter that you have and everything like that. Nobody's saying like the switch hitter is not good. But what we're saying is like that DH is really important. Personally, I believe that a DH should be for all leagues, not just the American. I always thought that was pretty unfair. Which is maybe a reason why whoever wins the All Star game ends up getting that home field advantage. Maybe that's the reason why they did it because having a DH for one league and not the other one is just not fair. So the double hook thing, I completely agree with you on. The pitching, I don't because I feel like you get them prepared early, they'll end up coming into the MLB and they'll be ready for it.
Right, and the only reason why I have a problem with it, well, not only that, like, and you're absolutely right, that does prepare them, but everybody reacts to things differently. You know what I mean? Like sometimes someone
Right.
can be that kind of feedback. Like I said, well, one hard pitch can put a lot of strain on you. Someone can react to that really badly.
Right.
But the
Right. But
other
you're in
problem I have with it is that it's just pertaining to minor leagues. I feel like this is something that they should test moving forward, and I think that's something that they actually said if this works, that they're actually going to end up trying in other parts of
here's
professional
my
baseball.
problem with that. Like I said, if you're gonna test it with college, those kids in college aren't going to be guaranteed to go to the MLB. They might not even want to get to the MLB. I mean, you could test it, but just I feel like for college, the reason why it's not so necessary is because not everybody in college baseball is going to want to transition into the MLB. That might not be what they want to do in life. Minor leagues is different. You enter the MLB draft. You want to play for the
That's what
MLB.
you want to
And
do.
when you enter, and let me tell you something, when you want to become a baseball player, out of every other sport, you are risking a lot. I think you are risking the most as a profession, as trying to become a professional baseball player. You're not living off a lot. You're not getting
Barely
paid a
get to
lot.
spend time with your family because you're always
Right,
on the
and even and you're working almost an insane schedule like you would be in the MLB. That's why I feel like you get these guys prepared. You get them adjusted to the MLB life as much as possible. So by the time they get to the MLB life, they're not surprised by anything.
they know what to
That's why I
expect.
like it so much in the minor leagues. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from. A lot of pitchers like that foot means a lot to them and everything like that. But when it comes to the minor leagues, I just feel like it's better to get it out the way early than to experience it in the MLB and have trouble. Because when you get to the MLB, you're dealing with big boys. So it's time for I think in the minor league for that to actually happen. I'm a big fan of that. As for the double header thing, I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I get what you're coming from. I actually didn't even look at it in that aspect, to be honest, either. That's why I said it's a really good point. I did not look at it like that at first. I looked at it in the aspect of like that's gonna take even more strain out of us. But if it works, it works. Hopefully, I make it that far so I could come back on here a few years later and tell you guys how I feel about it because they're not like you said they're not doing it in college. They're keeping them on the same. They're keeping it the same in MLB. They're trying it out in the minor leagues, which now that I think about it, it does make a little bit of sense. But with that being said, best of luck to all the minor leaguers playing. They're actually going to be having a season this year, so that's good. Last year they didn't have a season because of COVID. They ended up canceling it altogether, so the prospects never really got a chance to play last year. So that kind of sucks. So now they're actually going to have a season. So best of luck to them moving forward. Best of luck to the new shinies out there. You know what I mean? Keep doing your thing. You know what I mean? And best of luck to all the coaches, all the executives working their hardest to keep these minor league teams intact. And yeah, man, I'm gonna miss the Pawtucket Red Sox too, man. They moved them to Worcester. At that point, if you're a Pawtucket Red Sox fan, you know what I'm talking about. Just go to a Red Sox game. Worcester's so much farther from Boston, it just doesn't even make it. But that's a whole nother argument for another time. With that being said, best of luck to all the minor leaguers out there, and yeah, just keep doing your thing.